I only called to ask about the recipe. My daughter's lemon cake, the one she makes every Easter. That was all. Just the recipe. She answered, and we spoke for a minute or two. And then she said, "Hold on, Mum, someone's at the door." And she set the phone down. But she didn't hang it up. She only set it down on the counter and walked away. And so, without meaning to, I heard them. My daughter and her husband, and my own grandson, talking in the kitchen, in the easy, unguarded way that people only talk when they believe no one is listening. They were talking about me. She called about the cake again, my daughter said, with a little sigh I knew very well. Honestly, she forgets she's already asked. She's getting to be such hard work. And her husband laughed and said, "Well, you'd better sort out the home soon then, before she can't sign the papers herself." And my grandson, my Jamie, whom I have loved since before he could walk, said nothing at all to stop them. He just laughed too and changed the subject to football. I stood in my kitchen with the phone pressed to my ear and the lemon cake forgotten. And I listened to the people I loved most in the world describe me as hard work, as a problem to be sorted, as someone whose signature they were already counting. Then I heard my daughter coming back, and I hung up before she could reach the phone. And I sat down at my table, very gently, the way you sit when something inside you has gone quiet. But all of that can wait until the morning. Truly, it can. Because right now, none of it can touch you. Right now, there is only your warm bed, and the soft dark of your room, and the slow, steady rise and fall of your own breathing. So let yourself settle. Let the pillow take the whole weight of your head. Let your shoulders sink. Let your hands grow heavy and warm. Let the day drain away from your body like water from a tub. I'm going to tell you the rest of this story slowly and softly. There is nothing you need to do but listen and drift, and let yourself be carried gently down into sleep. Let me begin properly. I am 68 years old, and until that telephone call, I had spent a very long time trying to be no trouble at all. I had become an expert at it, the way some people become experts at chess or crosswords. I made myself small. I asked for little. I apologized for ringing at the wrong time, for needing a lift, for taking up space in the lives of people who were so very busy. I told myself this was kindness. I told myself that a good mother fades quietly into the background once her children are grown, that she becomes a soft and undemanding presence, there when wanted, invisible when not. But the truth, which I only understood while standing in my kitchen with that lemon cake forgotten on the counter, was simpler and sadder than that. I had been shrinking myself for years, folding myself smaller and smaller to be no trouble. And the smaller I became, the easier I was to overlook. And the easier I was to overlook, the smaller I made myself, hoping it would earn me back the place at the table I felt myself losing. It never works, that bargain. I want you to remember that, even as you drift, you cannot become so small and so quiet that people are forced to love you. Love does not work by subtraction. Now breathe in with me slowly through your nose and let it go soft and long, like a sigh at the end of a long day. There is no hurry. We have all the quiet of the night ahead of us. I did not sleep much that first night. I sat in Arthur's old armchair by the window with the cat on my lap, and I watched the moon move slowly across the garden. The house was very still, the sort of still that has a sound of its own if you listen. The tick of the hall clock, the soft settling of the old timbers as the night cooled, the faint purr of the cat, rising and falling, like a small warm engine running on contentment alone. And somewhere in those small dark hours, I stopped feeling hurt, and I started feeling something else. Something I had not felt in years. I started feeling curious. If I was already in their eyes, hard work, a problem, an old woman forgetting her own questions, then what exactly did I have left to lose by simply pleasing myself? What a strange and freeing thought it was. I turned it over and over, the way you turn a smooth stone in your pocket. For so long I had measured every choice by whether it would be a bother to someone. Would it worry them? Would it inconvenience them? Would it make me, in some small way, hard work? And now, sitting in the dark with the cat purring and the moon on the lawn, I let myself ask a different question. Perhaps for the first time in my whole life. What would I do if I simply allowed myself to want things again? Let your eyes close now if they haven't already. You don't need them. There is nothing left to see but the soft dark, and nothing left to do but listen and breathe and slowly let go. The next morning, I made a list. I have always loved a list. But this was not a list of errands or of things to apologize for. This was a list of small, quiet wants that I had set aside for so long I had almost forgotten they were mine. I wanted to see the sea again. I had not seen it in 11 years. I wanted to learn to paint properly with real brushes, not just the coloring books I did with the grandchildren. I wanted to repaint my own front door a deep, ridiculous, joyful blue, the color of a summer evening, instead of the sensible brown my daughter had once said was more appropriate. I wanted to plant a wild, untidy garden full of foxgloves and cosmos and tall, waving grasses, the kind of garden that is no trouble to no one but the bees. And I wanted, more than anything, to stop asking permission to take up space in my own life. It was a small list, but writing it down, I felt something straighten inside me, like a plant that has been left too long in the shade, slowly turning back toward the light. So breathe softly now and let me tell you what I did. There is nothing dramatic in it. It is a quiet story, the kind that is good for falling asleep to. I started with the door. I drove to the little hardware shop in the village, and I stood for a long time in front of the rows of paint, and I chose the bluest blue they had. The young man at the counter asked if it was for a feature wall, and I said, no, it is for my front door, and I am 68 years old, and I have wanted a blue door my entire life. He smiled and said it was a wonderful color. And do you know, it was the first time in a long time that someone had simply agreed that something I wanted was good, without weighing whether it was sensible or convenient or any trouble. I painted it myself over 2 soft spring afternoons, with the robin watching from the wall and the radio playing low. I learned, as I went, the small pleasures of the task, the smooth drag of the brush, the way the new blue covered the tired old brown, stroke by patient stroke, the smell of the paint, sharp and clean and full of beginnings. And when it was done, that deep, joyful blue against the old gray stone, I sat on the step and looked at it and felt absurdly, quietly proud. A blue door, such a small thing, and it had taken me 68 years. Breathe in, slow and easy, and out, slower still. Feel how heavy and warm your body has become, how the bed holds you completely, so that you do not need to hold yourself at all. The painting of the door woke something in me, and so the next week I crossed the second thing off my list. I bought myself a set of watercolours and a pad of thick, creamy paper, and I sat at the kitchen table in the morning light, and I began, very badly, to paint. My first attempts were dreadful. A muddy brown that was meant to be the garden, a blue blob that was meant to be the sky and looked more like a spilled drink. But here is the thing I had forgotten in all my years of being careful and small. It did not matter that I was bad at it. No one was marking it. No one was watching. I was painting for the pure, foolish joy of moving color around on paper, and the joy did not require me to be any good at all. I painted the robin. I painted the blue door over and over. I painted the view from the kitchen window, the wonky apple tree, and the old stone wall, until slowly, week by week, the brown grew less muddy, and the sky grew less like a spilled drink. Let it all go now as you listen. The phone call, the kitchen, the laughter that was not kind. Let it dissolve like sugar in warm tea. It brought you here, to your warm bed and the soft dark, and that is the only thing it was ever good for. Then came the sea. I booked myself 3 nights in a small guest house on the coast, a place with white painted boards and a window that looked straight out over the water. I did not ask anyone to come with me. I did not ask anyone's permission. I simply went. I walked on the beach in the early mornings when the sand was smooth and wet and the only footprints were my own. I ate fish and chips out of paper on a bench and let the gulls watch me with their hopeful yellow eyes. I sat on the harbor wall and watched the little boats rock, and I felt the years and the smallness lifting off me like mist burning away in the sun. In the afternoons, I painted the sea. It is a very difficult thing to paint, the sea always moving, never the same color twice. But I had all the time in the world and no one to please but myself, and I sat with my little watercolors and I tried and failed and tried again and was perfectly, completely happy. On the second evening, an older gentleman sat down at the other end of the harbor wall, and we got to talking, the easy way strangers do when they have nowhere they need to be. His name was Henry. He had lost his wife the year before, and he too had come to the sea to remember how to be a person. We did not fall in love, in case you are wondering. It was gentler and rarer than that. We simply became friends. We talked until the light went down over the water, and the harbor lamps came on one by one, golden on the dark sea. We talked about our marriages and our gardens and the strange business of growing older in a world that seems to look straight through you. And we laughed. I had not laughed like that in a very long time. We still write. Henry and he sends me postcards of lighthouses, and I send him my little watercolors of the blue door and pressed flowers from my wild and untidy garden. And the garden, the last thing on my list, came last of all, the way the best things often do. I dug the beds myself, slowly, over many soft mornings, with the robin supervising from the spade and the cat asleep in whatever patch of sun it could find. I did not plan it carefully. I did not lay it out in neat, sensible rows. I scattered the seeds the way you scatter a wish, and I let them come up wherever they pleased. And come up they did. By midsummer, the garden was a glorious, riotous muddle. Tall foxgloves leaning drunkenly against the wall, pink and purple and freckled at the throat. Cosmos waving on their thin stems like dancers who have quite forgotten anyone is watching. Grasses gone to soft, feathered seed, catching the low gold light of the evening. And everywhere, all day long, the drowsy, heavy hum of the bees, who did not care in the slightest whether my garden was sensible, only whether it was kind. I took my chair out into the middle of it, most fine evenings, with a cup of tea going cold beside me, and I simply sat. I watched the swallows stitch their long lines across the sky. I watched the light turn from gold to rose to that deep, soft blue, the very blue of my door. And I thought, sometimes, of all the years I had spent indoors, being careful, being small, while just beyond the window, a garden like this had been waiting all along to be let grow wild. The seasons turned as they do. The foxgloves faded, and I left their tall brown spires standing because the goldfinches loved them. The autumn came in copper and smoke, and I painted it. The first frosts silvered the grasses, and I painted that too, badly and happily. And through all of it, in every weather, that deep blue door glowed out from the old gray stone like a small kept promise. Breathe in soft and slow, and out softer still. There is nowhere you need to be tonight. There is nothing you need to carry. Only the next quiet word, and the next, and the slow tide of your own breath. You may be wondering about my daughter, whether I confronted her, whether there were tears and apologies and a great healing scene. There was not. Real life so rarely arranges itself so neatly, and I was far too busy, by then, living my own. But something did change, and it changed without a single harsh word, because a woman with a blue door, and salt in her hair, and paint on her fingers, and a friend who sends her lighthouses, is not hard work. She is not a problem to be sorted. She is simply a person, full of her own small joys, and people feel that, even when nothing is said. When my daughter next visited, she stood on the step looking at the blue door for a long moment, and then she said, quietly, "It's beautiful, Mum. I don't think I ever knew you wanted that." And I said, "No, I don't think I ever told you." And we left it there. Some things do not need to be dug up and examined. Some things only need to change quietly from that day forward. She came inside, and she saw my paintings drying on the windowsill, the door, and the robin, and the difficult, shifting sea. And she went very quiet, and she picked one up, and she asked if she might keep it. And I said yes. And something between us, some small frozen thing, began very gently to thaw. She comes more often now. Not out of duty, I think, but out of a kind of curiosity. The same curiosity I found that night in the dark. She wants to know who this mother is, the one with the wild garden and the postcards from the coast and the watercolours on the sill. And slowly, gently, we are getting to know each other again as two people rather than as a burden and the ones who carry it. My grandson Jamie came too one afternoon on his own, which he had never done before. He didn't say sorry, not in words. Boys that age rarely do. but he helped me stake the tall foxgloves against the wind, and he stayed for tea, and he asked me to teach him to paint. And I did, the two of us side by side at the kitchen table, making muddy browns and spilled drink skies and laughing about it. And as he left, he hugged me properly, the way he used to when he was small. I never told them what I heard that day on the telephone. I think, perhaps, I never will. It was not a gift they meant to give me, but it was a gift all the same. It was the day I stopped making myself small. It was the day I painted the door. So let that be the last thought you carry down into sleep. Not the unkind words, but the blue door. Not the laughter in the kitchen, but the sea in the morning, and the smooth, wet sand, and the single set of footprints that were yours, and yours alone. You are allowed to take up space. You are allowed to want things. You are allowed to paint the door any color you like, and the sea as badly as you please, for the simple joy of it. But not tonight. Tonight there is nothing to do at all. Tonight you only have to rest. Breathe in soft and slow, and out softer still. Let the next breath be gentler than the last, and the one after that gentler still. You are safe. You are warm. You are exactly where you are meant to be. Rest now. Sleep now. I will keep the blue door open and the kettle warm and a place for you here whenever you need somewhere gentle to go. Good night.